Hi everyone, my name is Misty Campbell. I'm going to present an animal health plan for poultry, specifically chickens. I chose chickens because I have had exposure or experience with chickens my entire life. Recently, I've owned eight birds that consisted of four chickens, two turkeys and two guinea fowl. So not all poultry were chickens, but and of course these were just pets. They finally started producing eggs, but for the most part they were just they were uh, truly just pets. So I enjoy taking care of them. Here's an outline of what to expect in this presentation PowerPoint. Just a little bit of a reference guide here, kind of be a quick find if you need to find something specifically. Animal scenario, again, it's commercially farmed poultry. These are dual purpose chickens. These can be for meat, these can be egg layers, broilers, I believe is another term that people use for large flocks, as what you see in this photo here. They can be male, they can be female, and anywhere from 6 weeks and older. Most common disease with poultry, and especially in this scenario with this many birds, is the avian influenza, also known as bird flu. Bird flu is extremely contagious among birds, but it can also be um, spread to human. That's what makes it so dangerous. It can be spread among both. So and infectious would be um, anything that's, um, spread throughout the flock. It's very hard to contain. Once it's introduced, it's pretty, like I said, it's pretty hard to contain, hard to manage. So that's why we try to prevent it. And if you see any signs or symptoms, be mindful or careful as to identify those quickly and take care of those birds as soon as possible to avoid any further contamination or any further spread. Non-infectious. One example, and I use this because of personal experience with my birds, was bumblefoot. It is an ulcerative. They do have sores that will come up on their legs and feet, and it can be of no fault of the owner or the farmer. It's just things that happen. Um, so it's not because the habitat is not clean or not sufficient. It's just things do happen. Here's an example of bumblefoot on this page here. Again, it's very painful for the birds. It can be ulcerative, open sores, and unfortunately, we'll say I didn't include this in the presentation. However, when you have an open sore on a bird in any flock, other birds are going to attack that bird. That's just I guess that's something that they it's a normal interaction, and it's unfortunate. But if they find another bird that's sick or especially has open wounds or anything like that, they're going to pick on the bird, and ultimately it will be fatal for the sick bird. Unfortunately, if you're not careful, you don't remove the bird from the flock and treat it and make sure you get the wounds wrapped and treated. If not, then you're gonna have a much bigger problem. Another issue is parasites with your birds, poultry. You have internal, external. Here's examples of both. I've been told for years about mites, and here's an example of the mites with the chickens. Um, it's not. It seems like they take over pretty quickly once they're introduced to the bird. If you don't identify and manage pretty quickly, then as you see, it can become a problem really quick. So again, identification and management is just quick identification and treatment prevention. Zoonotic disease, one of the biggest zoonotic diseases is salmonella. We hear about salmonella all the time. And here's the transmission routes. Number one, mice and rat droppings. We hear about that all the time. But then again, contamination with food and water. Just again, cleanliness is key when you're dealing with any kind of large flocks of birds. So just keep things clean, keep things aerated, make sure there's enough air, not overcrowding. Um, Animal risk and human risk, here are a list of both of those. Um, Again, with salmonella, there are risks for both with poultry, so it's one reason why I highlighted that in my presentation here. Um, Here's a couple of charts to go by. Biosecurity, very important. Biosecurity, probably one of the most important things to practice when you have any amount of animals, especially larger quantities, flocks per se. But biosecurity, internal, external. I didn't realize that there were two different types of biosecurity, but one is to contain and prevent, and one is to completely prevent. So internal containment and prevention, external just make sure you work very hard as you see here, just to try to keep any contaminants out if you can, so to speak. Internal, you know, keep things clean, keep things inspected, identify any issues, and make sure to stay on top of any practices to remove any concerns. As soon as you identify, you need to take care of that as soon as possible. So here are best practices for biosecurity. Again, with the stress of overcrowding and poor ventilation, it doesn't take much for ventilation to become poor when you have more than five. I'm sure even less than five birds, but five or more, and you can imagine the ammonia, the dust, just all the contaminants. When you have a big flock of birds, especially commercially. So ventilation is key. Vaccination, also very important. When you have more than five birds, just to protect the birds. Anything preventative, you want to do anything that you can to prevent illness, any step. Here's a biosecurity example. I thought that was kind of a cute way to display your biosecurity here. A little bit of a bingo. It kind of tells you, boot covers, set rodent traps. It's just something to reference. Gives you an idea of the things to think of or to avoid. So just a good reference here. Vital signs. Here are normal and abnormal things to look for. Your normal. It's always good to know both. So that way you have a baseline and you can understand or identify, things that stand out, things that are abnormal, and you'll be able to, again, to identify these pretty quickly when you know what normal is. So normal is very important with that. Again, here is a reference chart, just a quick visual guide of things that are normal and things that are abnormal. And once you see abnormal, and I'm sure once you're experienced with seeing abnormal things, then you will pick up on those much quicker when being out among your flock. So vaccines, just put some information here about the most common vaccines with poultry, and then of course risk-based vaccines. Anytime you move any amount of birds around, avian influenza is a number one. A lot of times farmers will quarantine birds before they introduce them into a flock. or move them into a different facility. So it's always important to be mindful of vaccines, and if you can, prophylactically, prevention is key. So here is some information on preventative care. Speaking of best practices, here is another list, a little bit of a lengthy list here, but again, very important information when you're caring for a large amount of birds or animals in general, but specifically with poultry. Just be mindful and be preventative with the care. And then, of course, here are reference slides. There's a lot of information here throughout the course. I've acquired quite a few references, and some that I continue to use. I have them saved as my favorites, just because they've got just overabundance of great information. But again, number one key for poultry, or again any type of uh, commercially farmed, I guess this is what they call it, um, animals, is to keep things clean, keep your animals stress free, and just be mindful of what signs and symptoms to look for. If there's a problem, know how to identify and know what to do when you do identify any issues. So this is my presentation, and again, the reference page that has a lot of great information and resources. So I plan on using that throughout the rest of my research with animals and conservation. Just a lot of good resources. But I've enjoyed learning more about poultry, and didn't realize there were so many things that could and could not go wrong with raising chickens. It seems like it would be pretty cut dry to raise chickens, but apparently it's not. But hope this has been informational for you. It has been for me. Just researching and presenting it to you today. So hope you enjoyed learning about poultry as I have, and thank you for watching.